among some of the most vulnerable members of our society. Families of those living with mental illness and developmental disabilities say that the state simply isn't doing enough to provide the services they need. The state's Department of Health and Welfare tells us major changes are coming to transform the current struggling system, but many we talk to are still skeptical. News Channel 7's Karen Zakalak takes an in-depth look tonight at Idaho's behavioral health system as it stands today and its future.
Brighton is 8 years old and has been diagnosed with severe autism.
Say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
His 6-year-old brother, Ryder, also suffers from autism. Their parents say they simply don't get the care that they need.
This is real. We really need help.
Help for not just her young boys, but her older adult son as well. A 22-year-old who was recently diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. Tanya Samuelson says she sees firsthand that the lack of resources in Idaho stretches across every age group. She says without the care he needs, her older son can't keep a job, has ended up in jail, and often turns to alcohol.
He self-medicates. No, a lot of them do, when you don't get help.
Samuelson tells us she's most disappointed in the lack of day-to-day coordinated services for everyone involved.
Jeez.
Family services. Something for me. For us. Things for us as a family.
That emotion is what Service Coordinator Heidi Knittel says she sees every day. She's also seen how the lack of resources can turn frightening for the whole community.
There he is holding a gun.
One of her clients drew these disturbing pictures a week after the Newtown shooting.
This 7-year-old boy had essentially drawn 2 pictures in which he was taking the brains out of his school counselor and his teacher.
Do you think this child is getting the help he needs?
No. Absolutely not.
Knittel says the help for both children and adults simply isn't available.
They are desperate and helpless. They don't know where to go.
What do you tell them?
Sometimes I just have to send them away.
She tells us some community clinics have recently closed. Others are full. She says sadly some adults end up on the street or in a homeless shelter. And it usually takes a crisis to get a patient of any age, any kind of help.
What the families are often told is that if your child is acting up, call the police. Have the police come in, file a report so you can create a paper trail so that maybe later you can get services.
Dr. Charlie Novak, a psychiatrist at Intermountain Hospital, agrees.
The only way to access care if you have a serious persistent illness is to end up in a ER, a hospital, a jail, or a prison.
Dr. Novak says it will take a partnership of both state funds and private community services to fix the issue. He adds that it's a frustrating cycle because the more the state cuts preventative day-to-day care, the more it ends up costing down the road. But it's too late.
The reality is it's alive and it's a big problem, and just from a taxpayer's perspective, it's cost us a lot of money.
The Department of Health and Welfare tells us the cuts began in 2009, when the time a patient was allowed with a counselor, called PSR, was cut from 20 hours a week down to 10. Then, in 2010, House Bill 701 reduced that time down to 5 hours. The next year, House Bill 260 cut PSR again to 4 hours, part of a $115 million decrease in state and federal funds.
We did have cuts in Medicaid. We did have cuts in our own behavioral health program over the last 4 years, and it has impacted our ability. So that, it is a system that's struggling.
Tom Shanahan says the cuts and capped services hit the mental health providers the most, and admits the behavioral health program as a whole doesn't always cover all the needs.
It's a very fragmented system right now. We've been trying for several years, probably 10 years, to transform the system.
But Shanahan says that transformation is happening now in 3 different ways.
First, a new managed care system set to begin in July of this year. Also, the Affordable Care Act Health Insurance Exchange, and a concept known as transformation that will give everyone access to clinical services through their community.
30%.
Shanahan says their department has not received any new funding, but has been working on these changes for years, and says they happen to be coming together at the right time.
We're gonna have a system that's not as fragmented as it was, and there's not gonna be as many gaps.
As for Samuelson and her boys, she's not convinced the changes will help, and says she's still unsure of the system that let her family down when they moved to Idaho.
I'm disappointed. This is my home state. And if I could go back and not have moved here, I would take my life back for 4 years. No.
Karen Zakalak, Idaho's News Channel 7.
Recently, Governor Otter proposed creating a mental health prison to help provide another resource for patients who need it. But last month, lawmakers said the project would be too expensive and abandoned that idea.
Tonight, Garden City wanted to